also have to tell you before we dive in that your character is extra special to me because my 10-year-old niece is named Sadie McCarthy,
No way. What are the odds?
which
Wow.
I know, and it's so sweet because, like, I mean, I feel like maybe she's a little too young to watch this show, but I told I told everybody, I was like, she's gonna be just like, what an honor and privilege that this little girl somewhere is gonna be able to watch a character like yours
Totally.
to be inspired by and look up to. I was just like, how magical.
That's pretty incredible. That's amazing. Like such a great magical coincidence. And I hope that she gets to watch it someday and maybe she'll be a journalist.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. Even though she like when I visited her, she was like showing me all her magic tricks. I was like, all right, female magician, very cool.
Just as cool, if not cooler.
Oh, all right. Well, let's dive in.
Okay.
So a big theme of the girls on the bus is finding the deeper truth. And the best stories, whether they're on screen or they're on paper, come from an honest place first and foremost. When and how did you first realize kind of the power and the importance of truth in art?
Mm. Oh man. The power and importance of truth in art. I mean, I've had moments throughout my career where I've felt that where something I've done or have been a part of has resonated. Um, I think
Mm,
it's just as simple as that to me. I think when you are faced with and can tangibly feel and see the energy that what a piece of art can do to an audience,
mhm.
that is it for me. And so I think in essence I felt it really early on because I grew up doing theater, and you're in the room with the people watching you and having that back and forth with an audience and seeing the audience react to what you're doing is, I think that's when I first felt the power of it. But in terms of like massive change and uh, that, I think I've felt that once or twice.
Right.
And that's kind of what you're always chasing as an artist.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I love that you brought up the theater because I can totally relate to that. I remember when I don't know how old I was. I think I was, um, before I even did community theater, I went and saw a production of Fiddler on the Roof. And I
Mm,
remember it was that sort of like, it's almost like you feel those butterflies of like, oh, wow, we're all experiencing this same sort of empathy together. And like, how can that not come from an honest place when it's like
mm,
such a natural response?
yeah.
Yeah. I am obsessed with the relationship between these four women, which I'm sure you hear all the time. It's so beautiful. And the fact that they're all so uniquely themselves, and have their own complexities, and then together, obviously, like create such a wonderful dynamic. But, and the beautiful relationship between Sadie and Grace, I think, is really a unique one that we haven't really seen on screen before. What has it meant to you to collaborate on a series that creates kind of like a space for support and strength and vulnerability to be valued among women in a competitive environment such as political journalism?
Your questions are so great, first of all.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
I mean, that is, I have to tell you, uh, there's something to be said when you get a group of women that are like-minded, that are passionate, that care about what they're putting out in the world, and you put them in a space together and they create something. I've never been on a set that felt more safe, that
Mm.
felt more understanding, that felt more like, and this sounds like a cliche to say because I know like a lot of people do interviews, and I've done it before where I'm like, oh, we all got along, and that
Right.
it's not dishonest most of the time, but this time I'm being so real that it was so just easy to be around these women, to make friends with them, to love them. And I'm not just talking about the three women that are in the show with me, Natasha, Carla, and Christina. I'm talking about the women behind the scenes and the writers and our showrunners and our executive producers. It was mostly female driven. And that made a huge difference, I think, because we were supporting each other and that
Right.
bled onto the screen. And I just hope that everyone can have that experience, because the making of this show was truly a joy and so fulfilling on so many levels, in no small part because it was
Right.
a group of women really supporting each other at every turn.
Absolutely. And like you said, that translates onto the screen. And I love to hear that. I think it's so important to talk about those kind of offset relationships and behind the screen relationships because I do feel hopeful that this is becoming more of the norm. I mean, it's not always been that way. And it feels so counterintuitive to like create these sort of like rigid sets that don't allow for play when it's like your job is to create and be vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just so happy that this is becoming more normalized. And I think, I mean, is that in part of you also being a producer on this? I mean, like, and kind of making sure that that's implemented. Talk to me about that because, first off, congrats. I hope you do a lot more producing in the future. But how is this experience for you?
It was great. I had such a great experience being a producer on this show. And thank you for congrats. It means a lot. And I, I think I learned a lot from working on Supergirl for as long as I did um, about being a leader in an environment like that. So I that really carried over to this experience too, because I had never produced before, so I was sort of cooking the meal as I ate it. Um,
I love that expression.
but that's great. I love a challenge like that, and I realized pretty quickly, like, oh, this is about um, bringing people together.
Mhm.
And what I've experienced numerous times in my career thus far is that like things do trickle from the top down. So it was my responsibility to um, set the tone. And I knew that from working on Supergirl. That's what I'm referencing when I say that it carries over. Like you do set the tone, and people do look to you for what the environment is going to be. And um, that's a big responsibility. So I didn't take that lightly. And you work hard at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I hope you do much more of it in the future. I just think it's brilliant when actors and storytellers wear also the producer act because for me it bleeds in so much, right? And it's so connected. And I feel like for so long our industry was so like segmented. And I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's not as valuable. And I'm really excited and I'm excited for you. I also want to talk about to go back to the four women. What I also think is really cool and important to see is that these characters are not afraid to debate each other, to have open conversations, to kind of work things out together. Can you talk about how sort of seeing that on screen will also hopefully create a space for off-screen discussions to happen for to normalize debates no matter how kind of scary or not knowing the outcome.
Well, I think that was one of the major goals that we had in making this show, and I don't think that it's very different. What you see on our show, I don't think it's very different than what that experience is
Yeah.
when you're touring on a campaign bus, which I've been told by our creator Amy Chozick that isn't even really happening anymore. Like campaigns and candidates aren't even really doing buses or planes anymore, so the press might not be traveling together the way they were, which is powerful because it does start those conversations. And you are possibly sitting next to the Fox News correspondent, and who might change your mind on something and you might change theirs. It's so valuable. It's so powerful, I think, to see people finding common ground. And if they don't find common ground, they're still respecting each other. And there's still civility and there's still compassion and empathy. So I think that is one of the bigger goals that we have in the show is that, yes, it is an escape from the chaos that our political arena feels like right now, but
Mhm.
it is in a way that like maybe it's not that far of an escape because we could possibly do this and it doesn't have to be so polarizing and dividing.
Right, right. It's really inspiring. It's so true. It's like it feels I feel sometimes so defeated. Like I don't even want to. I'm sure, thousands of people say this. It's not unique, but it's like you don't even want to have the discussions because you're so
Yeah.
mentally exhausted, whether it's with your family or friends or whoever. And I think this show really does a beautiful job. You're right. I think it does, which you need in art as well, is the listening factor. Is like
Hmm.
allow the time to listen and to really hear people. Um, and I just think it's so healthy and really wonderful to see. And it's inspiring to kind of see those discussions on screen, to kind of give us the hope that we can do that off screen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Um, I also think it's so as a journalist, I really believe it's like how can you be objective, right? Like especially in this world. And I just think that the show also does a wonderful job. I felt very connected to this series as a journalist, but also just as a woman in the world, a person in the world. So I thank you for that as well. Um, well, at the beginning of the series, Sadie was criticized for writing from an emotional space, a great writer who leads with her heart. So my question to you, do you believe, I know this is tricky because we're coming up on the finale soon. We don't want to give any spoilers away, but do you think Sadie finds power in her heart by the end of the season?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. I think all four of the women find they're not only searching for the best way to get the truth, to be a part of change and to be a part of reporting history in the way it should be reported. And I think they're also digging to find the deeper truths within themselves. And each of them, I think, has their own journey with that. But Sadie, especially, I definitely think she finds her power um, personally and professionally. And I'm excited for you to see it. I don't
oh
want to
my
spoil
gosh,
anything
I
else, but
know. I'm just like we're all waiting. We're all like waiting with bated breath of like what's going to go down on this finale. I mean, it's like it's insane. I mean, I'm just like we know that something's coming and I'm terrified because I've fallen in love with these characters with their flaws and all their complexities and I'm rooting for them, but I know that something's going down and it's really driving me crazy.
and the stakes are so high because we have all felt it in real life with politics. So you
So
know.
true. It's so true. It's like it's too true. It's too true. I mean, obviously we don't want to give anything away, but can you give us, okay, speaking of scoops, let's get a scoop, maybe a feel or a vibe for the finale, like or how the finale, how it felt for you to film. Maybe that's better, so you don't have to worry about plot lines, but how
the
did
the finale was definitely the biggest in scope of all of the episodes.
Ooh.
It's huge. The last two essentially, but the episode 10 was massive. It felt really big to film. The stakes
Mm,
felt really high. It felt like um I mean, I think that there's like a low grade hysteria underlying the entire series because of just the nature of being a campaign reporter. But
right.
the hysteria definitely comes to a crescendo. And the whole of episode 10, like it's a train that you got to get on and it doesn't stop. And it just gets faster and faster until the finish line.
Oh gosh, I really look forward to that. I'm terrified, but I'm excited. I think it's so true. I think the show does, and this is a testament to your beautiful performance as well, is like there's this constant, whether it shows up in the humor and the heart and the tears, is this constant like weight of choice. if
Mm,
that makes sense. This constant peddling, and having to be so reactive, which I think as a woman in the world you can relate to, as
yeah.
someone who's working in the landmine that is political journalism. And y'all have created such a fun but like effective tone to sort of bring that like that feeling to life of just like constantly having to go over our choices and just trying to lead with integrity, but also looking out for ourselves. It's a
Mm,
tough, it's so tough. Um,
hmm.
and I think y'all have just done such a beautiful job at sort of embodying that.
Oh,
Um,
well, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you. I think that was one of the goals for sure.
yeah. Well, this was such a joy. Thank you so much, Melissa. You're so lovely, and I'm so glad that I got to speak with you today. And I'm so excited for everyone to see the last two episodes that come out so soon. And I'm here's to hoping for season two as well.
I hope so too, from
Oh
your
my
mouth.
gosh. Right? I'll be crossing all the fingers, all the everything.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so lovely to talk to
Oh,
you.
thank you. Much love.